Thank you very much, and thank you, Minister. And Carlow is one of the fastest growing counties in Leinster, according to the CSO figures. Carlow town now has more people living in it than Kilkenny city, and yet we have no hospital. Earlier this year, Minister Donnelly came to Carlow and saw the pressure on our out-of-hours service and our limited use of a perfectly good X-ray facility in St Dipnis Hospital. We need an injury clinic in Carlow, making use of the good facilities already there and allowing the expansion of the services to properly serve the people of Carlow. Given our growth population and the demand on the service, the population of Carlow has had the biggest growth at 9% since 2016, bringing the county of Carlow to a total of 61,968. And again, Minister, if you look at the CSO figures, Carlow town has a bigger population than Kilkenny city. Now that to me in itself is leaves way for a huge injury clinic put in because of the population. The CSO figures have Carlow's town population at 27,351 and Kilkenny's at 27,184. So the Carlow town population figures include Great Cullen. Now, Minister, part of Great Cullen is in Laois, but it's just a very short walk across the River Barrow, and these people use the services in Carlow. They don't go to Portlaoise, they use all the Carlow services. If there was a minor injury clinic in Carlow, and of course in other towns, I believe that needed across the country, it would take the pressure off the A&E departments, and of course the pressure off people waiting hours just to get an X-ray. And this is something now, Minister, that concerned me, and I'm not blaming the staff in Kilkenny Hospital, but over the last bank holiday weekend, St Luke's Hospital asked that people would not attend A&E unless they really had to because of staff pressures. Now, I understand the staff are doing an excellent job, but they announced that unless you needed to go to the A&E in Kilkenny, please do not go. They are under so much staff pressure. We also, Minister, have what is an excellent, as I said, X-ray department. We have a vaccination clinic and we have out-of-hours services, but yet the people are being sent to Kilkenny Hospital. And again, it's unfair on people, and it's unfair on the hospital. The X-ray department in Carlow operates on a part-time basis with very limited daily X-ray facilities, but it needs to be open 5 days a week, and it would take the pressure again off Kilkenny, where the staff, as I said, and I can only just say, because I don't want to be letting the staff think that I don't appreciate the good work that they're doing. So I want to ask you, what is the plan for increased resources for St Dipnis Hospital, or is the Minister going to look at maybe a build for an injury clinic elsewhere? The other thing now, Minister, I only have a few seconds on, is we need to look at primary care centre, and I know that is part of the government going forward. It's the plan. I was told the HSE proposed to deliver a primary care centre for Tullow, Rathvilly and Hackettstown, which the HSE using their own direct build mechanism. The HSE said their capital plan would fund it. The HSE then told me that this was only identified last year. Then I was told it was to begin in Q4. It's still not there. This is a huge centre promised for a long time, and I would ask you, Minister, to go back to Minister Donnelly and see if this can be pushed urgently. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank Deputy Murnane-O'Connor. I'm taking this on behalf of Minister Stephen Donnelly. Deputy, in 2012, the Emergency Medicine Programme recommended the establishment of injury units in Model 2 hospitals to provide unscheduled emergency care for patients with non-life-threatening or limb-threatening injuries. It was envisaged that due to their locations, the injury units would provide a convenient level of emergency care while ensuring patient safety and equitable standards of care within an emergency care network. 15 local injury units are now open around the country, each one providing an important service to local communities. And there is clearly a large and a growing demand for these services. Approximately 140,000 patients attended injury units in 2022, an increase of over 30% since 2019, which represents 7% of all urgent and emergency activity in Ireland. The impact of this level of service is not just local, however. These injury units also play an important role in reducing the waiting times for patients in emergency departments across the country by providing that level of care locally, which is being referenced by Deputy Murnane-O'Connor. Injury units are for the treatment of minor injuries that are unlikely to need admission to hospital, for example, broken bones, dislocations and burns. Patients may be referred to an injury unit by a GP or sent to one from an emergency department. Injury units require access to appropriate clinical space and on-site access to X-ray facilities. I'm advised that the HSE commenced a review of injury units and medical assessment units in October 2022 with the aim of identifying areas of best practice that could be rolled out across the country. This review also looked in detail at the activity, capacity, staffing and operation of existing units across the Model 2 hospitals, as well as areas having the most potential need for additional injury units. An implementation plan for the recommendations from the review is now being developed. Whilst all recommendations will of course be subject to resource and other considerations, including its alignment with urgent and emergency care, national and local plans, the development of services in areas including Carlow will be considered as part of the implementation plan. And unfortunately, Deputy, I don't have an update on the primary care issue, but I will get some from the Minister for you.
You know, and I know you will, and I know you will go back to Minister Donnelly, because, as I said, I've had him in Carlow, we've met with different groups, and an injury clinic with our growth population has to be part of the plan going forward. What I would ask is that you spoke about the implementation plan and the recommendations from the review is now being developed. Areas such as Carlow will be considered for part of this implementation plan. Can I just ask you, Minister, what is the timescale on this and is there a date? The main thing for me is, Minister, the people of Carlow, and I mean the good people of Carlow, we're so lucky to have such a good hospital as Kilkenny, but it's half an hour away. Our population has grown so much. We need an injury clinic in Carlow. But the issue is, Minister, we need it now and as soon as possible. And the reason I spoke about the primary care, and I know you will come back to me on that, is we had been promised 6 years ago a primary care centre which would include Tullow, Hackettstown, Rathvilly, all that area. And yet we I'm telling you now, Minister, I'm more out talking to CHO5. I might as well tell you, I'm constantly ringing them, I'm constantly trying to get an update, and I just don't seem to be getting anywhere. So I would ask that you would again talk to Minister Donnelly. I will also speak to Minister Donnelly myself. I recently met with some councillors from the Burris area. Now, Burris area would be kind of, in the census, we would have seen that it has one of the oldest populations in Carlow with an average of 44.9 years. But they also need are looking for a primary care because they are really in the most rural parts of Carlow. And I just think these facilities are going to be so important going forward, because while we're all delighted, people are living longer, and that is really good news. But we need to be able to facilitate this. We need to be able to make sure that people can access these things. And I just want to say, I was in St Mullins last night, which is very close to Burris. It's the most beautiful part of Carlow. I was at a big public meeting, and I just said we have so much to offer in Carlow, but I'm looking for 2 primary care units and an injury clinic. Thank you.
Thanks, Deputy, for the weekly tour of Carlow. I can assure you, Deputy, firstly, the review of the current injury units and the medical assessment units was begun just last October, has been finalised, and an implementation plan is now being developed, which for the HSE is particularly quick, which I'm sure you will understand. I think it would be useful for you to supply to Minister Donnelly the census figures you've quoted, including Greg Namana, and the portion in Laois, to give backup to the work that might be underway with the implementation plan. The Minister is very clear that Carlow will be considered as part of the implementation plan, but that of course is subject to resource, to other considerations, including the alignment with urgent and emergency care, national and local plans. But I think it would be useful to provide that up-to-date information directly to the Minister, and I will advise him to expect it from you.